Okay, everybody, welcome to episode number 49. Welcome to the Daily Closing. This tie
all kinds of
was
cute.
purchased in France.
Oh yeah,
This. Talking about 2023. We're not talking about 10 years ago, 100 years ago,
Correct.
or the greatest voices ever. We're just talking about this 2023 that is now ending. Obviously, had some very interesting moments, very interesting voices, very interesting people they came across for so many different reasons. Right? Who wants to open it up? Who wants to go first to see about that?
Let's go. So number 5 for me, funny enough, is actually the Daily Wire cast. Completely. In general, I mean, Owens being at the top.
You guys are going like groups, like all the immigrants, everybody that crossed the border, everybody that plays basketball. How about one voice at a time?
No, just because
I could have just said United States, and that would have been. This guy's cheating
I cheated a little bit.
step of the way.
Yes, I totally did.
Yeah.
You're gonna see my number 3 and you're gonna laugh. Actually, my number 1. Anyway,
Vatican.
so the Daily Wire, starting with Candace Owens for me, also just the conversations that she has had. She's gotten in fights with everybody, so she's been everywhere. Jordan Peterson and the phenomenal job that he's doing, and I think that was the healthiest thing that he could have done is that platform, just because it augmentating his voice. And so I really enjoyed Jordan Peterson as a partnership with the Daily Wire, and he seems like he's doing whatever the hell he wants with it, which is the whole point of having a partnership, just being able to have a bigger mic.
Yes.
Ben Shapiro, I started with Candace, and Shapiro was somebody that helped me a lot processing different things and understanding, because he's very mechanical and logical, and a lot of the things that he talks about make sense. Some don't, but he'll make them make sense for whatever reason. And Matt Walsh, just because he's the biggest freaking troll, it's just, and I appreciate him.
What
I
is a
think
troll?
And so that for me, the Daily Wire cast
Yeah,
in general.
Put 5 people into
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
I totally cheated.
So for me, number 5, I don't even know how to put this into a person, but it's Disney. Disney is so Mickey Mouse.
Sure.
I would say Iger.
Yeah.
I would say Iger, but it's not even Iger.
Iger.
It's
No,
Mickey.
it's
So
I'm the only one here with a list of people, not places and entities.
But Disney has done so much in the last year. They do something every year, but I feel like
Good or bad?
More bad than good, but most of our episodes somehow gets, Disney is a part of the equation as far as.
So is that an important topic or an important voice?
No, I think they're making big, like they're influencing what
Culture.
we're gonna. Yeah, correct.
They're influencing culture.
Yeah,
period.
definitely. You know, as far as anytime they decide to do something or not do something, we're all paying attention to it. And like, why did Disney not do this? Why are they getting off of this platform, or why are they deciding to support this group? So I think they have a big voice, and whatever they do makes a difference. For a lot of us. So, with the whole city, their fights with DeSantis, everything.
A beloved institution for many of us who grew up under that ideal of Disney, and a place where we took our children to. Very hard to even come to a conclusion that. I don't want to say that I'm happy to see the loss of value to the entity, but I think it was an important correction and warning that they were given as to whether or not they're going to pay attention to. The interesting situation is that for the first time, that entity is vulnerable to the acquisition of someone else, opposed to then being able in a position to buy whoever they wanted to buy because they have the financial power. So it's an interesting shift that's taking place. My number 5 is somebody that I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. Andrew Uberman, and he's an American neuroscientist. This is a guy. The best way that I can describe him to you is if Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris decided to have a baby. That's what comes out.
That's a very confused baby.
Yeah. That's what comes out. But he has done. And by the way, he's doing a phenomenal job staying in a lot of medical conversations which makes you as neutral as you can possibly be.
Right.
Right. Remember, there was a lot of times where the conversation that Peterson was offering was actually very neutral. When he was, and I'll go into that, but what I'm going to tell you is he's putting enough time into the medical components. And so what that does is that it doesn't matter if you left, if you right, if you whatever, and then into some of those conversations we'll go into topics like the purpose. You know what I mean? What's the benefit of having purpose? And obviously, once you go into that conversation, you become a little more conscious about the role that you're supposed to play. Right? It's not just I'm there by accident or wandering around. And so, a lot of the conversations that you will get from a Sam Harris is 1,000% based on making a contribution about now, about life, about this moment, about not so much mitigating what's going to happen after I die, that I'm not paying attention to what's taking place right now.
Right.
And Peterson also, it's not so much that Peterson is talking about an afterlife. It's just, again, talking about the nature of that conversation, right? So this guy, and also being very careful about his political views, and I'm saying being very careful, and I think it's important that if somebody that will have a great voice has to at least be
Fair.
fair
Or
enough,
balanced.
fair enough, balanced enough, and qualified himself in front of enough people. Because guys, listen, there's some of us that either you lack the credentials or you already or you lack the value and credibility, right? It doesn't matter what kind of contribution we can make into something. Somebody goes into, Mr. Beast, right? As what is it? 150 billion, 2 billion followers this guy has, and he can be just goofing around all day. Obviously, he does a lot more than that, right? But
He buried himself.
yeah, I mean,
For 24
but also, I
hours.
mean, here's a guy that that's a guy that went to Africa and set
Yes,
up.
that's
You know
true
what I
too.
mean?
Yes.
Like he has done a lot of
Yeah.
great humanitarian things that just like that were. So this guy right now is establishing his credentials because he also has seen a lot of people with better ideas that never got to come to the forefront of the conversation because just they got buried quickly along the way. So very likable guy. Again, you know, somebody that I will invite to see to have him as part of the conversation.
Awesome.
One guy.
Well,
yeah.
Number 4.
What do you got?
I'm done with
Europe.
people. Well,
Yeah, you chose those.
no, I actually have Patrick Bet-David
Okay,
and
got
the
it.
PBD podcast. And the reason being, at number 4, it was very difficult not to put him at number 3. I just feel that they're picking up a lot of momentum when it comes to followers and people you get to see. Obviously, they have a big following on the right side, but also on the left. Some people that are like, I don't agree, but they still watch them. So that's an important voice when you're talking about being able to pull from both sides. And Patrick has just been somebody that has influenced me personally to levels that Jesus, business and personal development and all of these different things. His book that came out, for me, he's in my personal book, he'll be a number 1. However, when you put it in the whole context of what's happening around the world, number 4, I think, is somebody that, so Patrick.
I like it. You guys are gonna love my number 4. My number 4 is Barbie. So I think that's Barbie
There's
is
people wearing pink
I
still.
was
Yes,
that ready for that.
Yes,
I was
and
definitely
obviously
ready.
that's Margot Robbie, you know, but the actress who played Barbie, but biggest
Wait,
movie.
wait. The actress?
No,
Not
I meant
the movie.
I meant
Oh,
the movie.
You meant the movie.
But I
okay.
mean, you got to give her credit for being that person.
I guess so,
You know,
yes.
yeah. So it's the biggest movie like of the year, and definitely like in like I don't, and like I said, it's not because I haven't even seen the movie.
Me neither.
I haven't even seen it,
I
but I
refuse
didn't realize how big of a movement was gonna come from this, where like grown people was going to the movie theaters, all wearing all pink, in the box. Like I'm now about, you know, so like I didn't realize it was gonna have such a big impact, you know. And once again, for me, music, movies, and games are things we have to pay attention to because they influence so much of
Future,
you know
yeah.
exactly, you know. So because it was the number 1 movie, she's number 4 on my list. Yep.
Phenomenal. For me, it's a replacement. in the sense that I have another guy from the Daily Wire, but being that it was all the Daily Wire, casting that I don't have to say anything about Ben Shapiro, so I'll replace him with Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
I think that, and again, that's just because he's coming in with one of. First of all, I do believe that this man can, definitely not this time around, but I think that at
Future.
some point he can become a president of this country, and he can be a very good president of this country. I hope he plays within that arena a little more, just to pick up the additional experience that is needed. Again, when you're talking about credentials and credibility, I hope he becomes part of one of these departments: Department of Justice, Department of Secretary of. Anything at this point. You know what I mean? I think he will do a phenomenal job anywhere. But the way he approached the whole thing, and the way he came out of nowhere with certain position, he had a little bit of that Trump-like qualities, in the sense that it was so outside of the box. You know what I mean? Like people, again, listen. What is very clear is that a lot of people are becoming extremely attractive to the people that don't look like the cookie cutter traditional politician. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, and he forced a conversation about certain issues that most people don't want to talk about, especially with certain entities like the CIA, Department of Justice, you know what I mean, FBI, and some of the roles that we're playing with countries like Ukraine, and very few even mentioning the stuff that's going on with Armenia right now, and the suffering of the Armenian people. So, it's one of those guys that really, interesting enough, has a pulse on things that many people, I will tell you for a fact, I know that they have very little
Choose to
understanding.
not.
Exactly, and that's the
Media
point.
choose not.
The point is that in one end, if you're part of the media and you choose where you're gonna stay, right, and I wouldn't accuse them of just being lazy about it. That they stay in there for a reason, right? But then when
the
you go
agenda.
into the political side of it, and you have a lot of politicians that won't go into certain areas, a lot of it is laziness. You know what I mean? And so the fact that this kid is, and I'm sorry to use the term this kid, talking about a presidential candidate. You know what I mean? I don't mean to insult him. It's just that, again, when you're talking about one of the other Trump qualities that he has, is that he's a hard worker. This is another guy who has that same quality. They everywhere. He makes it his business to learn about, again, things that most people are not even talking about. So that's my number 4.
My number 3 is actually President Trump. And I put him at number 3 just because he's being hit with everything and anything, and that man is still going at it. He's been a topic of conversation the entire year. He's been the winner of 4 debates that he has not been present. That's just, to me, is somebody that has a lot of influence. And so I'll put him at number 3 for that reason.
Yeah.
It's just somebody that,
My number 3 is Patrick the David. It was hard to, because once again, because he has a bigger impact for me personally,
Correct.
it's hard to judge it where he is, compared to the bigger scheme of things. But Patrick is making some big moves as far as, with his book, the podcast, being part owner of the Yankees,
Big.
So yeah, a lot of big things going on, and I was following Patrick before I knew anything about, what we do at PHP, but like I said, Patrick, he's number 3, on the list. I'm super excited, for the things that, he's doing, so, yep.
Phenomenal.
Number 3.
Well, for me, my number 3, as a matter of fact, I already mentioned his name, is Jordan Peterson. And I will tell you, I want to go back to the statement that I was making before, and I didn't finish it because I wanted to make sure that it's clearly credited to him. His ability to describe certain situations, and what that requires is the above and beyond your own limitations as an individual. Meaning we all bring our own set of baggage into the equation, right? That means that as an individual, when I speak about my position, when I speak about what I'm thinking, I'm bringing into that conversation, every single one of my flawed perspectives. But if I have the ability to separate myself from that to analyze something, whether it's historical, again, political, if I can remove what the one remarkable thing that he has managed to do is that in many occasions he was able to remove his own personal perspective because he will say it in a different way because we have seen it going into that route when he was describing something from his personal perspective, and you will go like, that's not, usually. But when he's able to successfully remove himself from that, it's almost like transcending to have an opinion about something or making an observation that I will tell you almost no other human being would be capable of doing. I mean, this guy has definitely one of the most important voices, and this is one of those cases where you can say it of the century, you know what I mean, not just of 2023. For me, in a very personal way, one of the most helpful voices to get to the point of helping understand how do I go about processing certain things, and there's very few people that I can credit for that, you know what I mean, but this is one of those guys. So where are you, number two?
So number two.
Africa, the whole continent of Africa.
Yes, actually, kind of. Is somebody from South Africa. It's Elon. Elon Musk, number two, talking about influence, talking about defending freedom of speech, talking about speaking for entrepreneurs and saying, you know what? When you have core values and principles, a little bit kind of like that Dana White, I think he's giving a lot of people to have the courage to do that. So for me, influencing on every level. I mean, he touched the border. That relationship that he created with Tucker. I mean, he was able to get Tucker Carlson to come to Twitter or X at this very moment. So for me, is Elon Musk as number two.
My number two is also Elon Musk.
Oh!
Yeah, also Elon Musk. Yeah.
You're down to like 25, actually.
Yeah, correct, right. But there's not much to say that people don't already know as far as how influential he is or what he's doing. I'm just excited to see what's going to be like, the next phase of what he's going to be able to do, not only for like the business world, but for our country, so super excited. But yeah, he's number two for me.
Man, you guys are spending too much time together.
Yes.
My number two is Elon Musk. Look,
That's
you
funny.
know that
We're back to number 23.
So I'm not lying
That's
to you.
right. I wonder
want you
what's
to
number
see
one.
that. So that's
funny.
my number two, and I tell you that stop it. my number two, and I'm gonna tell you this. There was actually a statement in that same interview that really, man, went straight to the heart. He said, there's a lot of people that like to. This is a guy that when he said it,
Yep.
it was reflecting so much of what's going on in our time. He says, there's a lot of people that like to go around pretending to be doing the right thing, talking about the right thing, but definitely not doing the right thing.
Right.
And this is a guy that if we ever make it to Mars, right? If we ever run into Martians and they look back into our history, if 100 years from 50 years from now, people are going to look back and they're going to be asking the question, how is it that a guy that contributes so much to society?
Yeah.
Because it's not just projects that can make you money, but it's projects that have become life-changing, communication, transportation, the possibility of getting off this ground, you know what I mean, just to for the survival of the species, you know what I mean? So how is it that somebody at that level, at that magnitude, was treated so poorly? That's going to be the question that we're going to have to grapple with. Because the fact of the matter is that this is a guy that I don't think that most people understand how special this man is. I think that there's a movement out there that is so busy hating him that they don't really take the time to understand how special it is to have a guy like that among us right now. So from that reason, this is not a cultish approach to, I think that we should be able to recognize a genius when we see one,
Right.
especially because we don't have too many of those. Right, so that was my number two.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Before you go to your number one,
Yeah.
is there anybody that you have that's like a notable mention that you're like, oh man, this person really should have been on? They're not.
Oh,
on the top 10.
I'm going.
You have
I'm,
your
I'm
half.
going 1.5.
Oh, you got
I'm
all.
going-
Oh,
I told you guys.
No, well,
I'm going,
well,
by the way, it's not
I'm-
one. I'm combining two that I
Okay,
believe.
gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
believe that at this point, and I'm not playing your. Let's put 1,000 people. I'm
about to
combining
put
these two
1,000
because
people.
collectively they come up with a voice that I think is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, I would say I'm glad that you put Nayib Bukele because I'm like I really wanted to put like Shakira and Messi there,
That's
honestly.
funny. Yes,
but
yes.
but for me, Nayib Bukele,
Yeah.
I was even as to for somebody
Shakira,
that's
I wanted to put
no, but for me, Nayib Bukele is somebody that like literally changed the course of an entire. He could potentially change the course of an entire continent.
That's true.
If people really do look at things as a playbook. So him and actually Vivek as well.
Okay.
I was gonna have them both in there. I just couldn't put
fit.
them.
Yeah, it's hard to fit.
The number one for me, talking about umbrellas, and here's the reason why.
Rihanna?
Because you are no, actually, she is reasonable compared to this. We're being hit in every single direction, and it's hitting the number one entity. It's not entity, but demographic that is the most pliable and easy to influence. And it's super scary what's happening. And I hate that it's number one, but I believe that it has had the biggest influence in our generation this year. And it's the Alphabet Mafia, the LGBTQI plus WTF community. Starting with Disney and the stuff that they're standing for and they're backing financially. Dylan Mulvaney, how is it that two men actually became the face of women? Womanhood. Jeffrey Marsh, with his whole beard and creepy ass self saying these messages for the kids. Is so freaking like you understand, and the whole other aspect of medicalization, chemical castration of children, with the whole men getting their period and men getting pregnant. So for me, unfortunately, the biggest influence in 2023, hands down, was the LGBT mafia.
Yeah. Got it.
Oh, yeah. Before I say my
you
number one.
like it?
No, I like it. But I like it. That's number one.
You like the choice.
Yes. Before I say number one, I think the biggest thing
Who are your people?
Who's my...
That didn't make it, that made it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's not a person. It's AI. For me, AI is like gonna be the biggest thing that that's not my number one. That's
going all the way out to the
correct.
That's it. There's nothing else we need to talk about.
We cheated. There you go.
So that's not my number one, but that would be my notable mention that if it was a person and I could wrap it into a person, it would be AI and what impact that's having.
It's gonna give the medal to Sophie.
But number one for me is Trump. Trump is number one. There is no person that is making a bigger impact than what's going to happen in the near future or what people are paying attention to more than anybody other than him right now. I mean, maybe outside of the country, people won't say that, but for us here in America, Trump is number one. Yeah, hands down.
Seeing what we have seen, 1,000%.
Yep.
So my 1.5,
okay,
right, which is I told you guys from the very beginning. It's going
Biden, Kamala.
It's a combination of two voices that I truly believe that they happen to, at this very moment, they represent the goats of certain areas. One of them, more, I would say a little bit on the Michael Jordan side of it because it's more organic, is more, sometimes you're not quite sure to understand if he's doing certain things intentional. Jordan Peterson has always said, don't think that this is a simple man just because he comes across like very simple. It just gives you the room for you to explore on any direction. That would be Joe Rogan being the GOAT of, all podcasters out there in general. But the second voice and in connection to that, and this would be more the Kobe Bryant type of approach, which is discipline, is intentional, is a guy who studies the game, is a guy that is looking into a plan and is exercising and executing and trying, trial and error over and over again. Let me fix it. Let me make the adjustment. And that is Patrick Bet-David. I think that you have to put these two voices. You can separate it and come up with an analogy of who do they represent. Again, natural in one end, and a guy that probably that's the painful thing about the passing of Kobe, right? That you knew that everything that he was doing, he was being extremely intentional. That's the one thing that Patrick has. Patrick has not only the intentionality, he has the discipline. You know what I mean? To be able to work through certain situations. He's got the willpower that will 1,000 times be better and greater tool than the knowledge that you need to execute on certain things. Not that you don't need it, but if you don't have the willpower, I don't care what you know, it's not going to happen. So these two guys combined are probably going to be one of the most important voices going into the next election, right?
Yep.
So not only
100%.
what they did for this year, right, but going into
I like it.
2024. So I think they deserve to be there together. And my number one, my official number one, Donald Trump.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was like, you got 3 and 1.
Yeah, they 1.5. What are you talking about? 1.5.
They were 1.5.
Two to
You had like the
connect.
whole city of Miami.
Hey, stop it. Stop it.
But
Yes,
yes,
See, you
can get your combo.
You have
Yes.
your system, I
Yeah,
have my system.
yeah.
And no, but my number one is definitely Donald Trump.
Okay.
And I will tell you for the following reason, right? Is not just a question of being able to take the beating, right? Is that at this point, because of the way they are trying to stop it, right? There's so many people that don't understand that they are being exposed. They're exposing the issues that we had with the system. When people talking about weaponizing, you know, what I mean, certain areas, DOJ
Justice
weaponizing
system,
the
yeah.
justice system.
FBI.
You know, you're talking about judges that are, again, literally acting more like politicians than judges. You know, it's just, and again, the influence from
Soros.
entities like Soros and all those things. And the second thing is that it's undeniable. The country was better. The country was better. And there's many things that he's saying today in every single comparison that right now, like listen, they don't know which way to go. What's the worst place that you can go when you want to label somebody something? You are like Hitler, right? And guys, pay attention. You're gonna see now literally a lot of media outlets using that. He started to sound more like Hitler. He started to sound. By the way, they did that the last time around. But now they really at this point, okay, where do we go with this whole thing? Because now the gap is really becoming clear. That if the election was held today, hands down, we'll be saying President-elect President Trump, right? And so, but listen, as a family, it's a painful thing to financially the kind of losses that they experience, and so is this man such a bad man that deserves to be put through this whole process? You know, I think that history would be kinder to him. You know, it's going to take 20 years. It's going to take 30 years. You know what I mean? To try to understand that at the end, there was something important taking place throughout the whole country. And this is one of the reasons why I'm extremely grateful about social media, about many other tools that, you know, that we have today that we didn't have
No
before
one
because the
would know.
narrative was
Yeah,
one-sided.
Yeah.
I couldn't
this
imagine the
point,
world without.
You know what I mean? It's like, so going back to these things, it would be impossible.
Then
So,
again, there wouldn't be so much influence in media.
1,000%.
So
1,000%. So, guys, we did a phenomenal job here. I think we had
About
a
25?
decent amount of
23,
questions,
25,
you
something like
know what I
that.
mean? But mine was more concise and specific and was more of a, but thank God we have a lot of meaningful voices out there. So with that being said, guys, pass it around and ask your friends and family to see if they have their top 10. You know, have a great celebration.
Peace.
Take care. Bye-bye.